Hey, Neil, what's up?
Oh, hey, Cass. It's almost as every time you say hi.
It just surprises me, doesn't it?
I know.
I know, it's a surprise we're actually still here doing this.
Yep, I couldn't even believe that we're here.
So
how are you?
episode 4 of season 2. I'm great, man. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
All right. Well, I couldn't be happier. We got here with us Lori and Brian Stratton, our guests for episode 4. How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing fabulous. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Absolutely. So I had to play Liz Fair coming in because actually we were just at that show together, but we never actually met up before the show.
Well, the Masonic Temple is a pretty big place, so yeah.
I'd never been there before.
It's a really cool venue.
Yeah, it is. And
they got like 3 venues there.
Right, that's what blew my mind. Hey, I'm finally at the Masonic, and it was actually episode 1 guest Paul Gross was like, you understand this is actually the cathedral. It's not the real one. I'm like,
didn't even
no idea. But yeah, you walk in and it's like a maze to figure out.
It is like a maze, yes.
Yeah, I love that place.
Does that make the experience better then? Yeah.
You know, I talked to the guy that I work with. It's like it almost feels like you're cheating the system somehow, right? You're coming into this place. It's got great seats, comfy, and almost like you shouldn't be there for a concert,
Yeah, but the whole point of live music is to figure out how to work the system so that you can get, so that you know the venues and like where to sit and what to do and all that. Like Brian and I've sort of learned that over the last 15 years that we've done with going to shows. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of that show?
It was well done. So we never saw her back in the day.
Neither did I.
And my brother had Exile in Guyville when I was probably high school. Yeah, so high school. And I remember, but I never had really listened to it. But it wasn't until more in 2003 when she kind of took more of a pop turn from the alt rock that I kind of got into her stuff.
Right.
And then my brother had gotten me Exile in Guyville for Christmas back in 2003.
Okay.
And so I had it for a long time and enjoyed it, but we never really delved into it that much. And then when we saw she was doing the 30th anniversary tour, I love tours where they celebrate albums of different eras, like if it's a 20th anniversary or 30th. And so
makes it easy to prepare for.
It does. So it's
not only that, but it's like it's where I remember the artist. Like you said, Liz Fair. I was never a huge fan. It was funny because my brother was like, he loved like the 90s era women singers.
Gotcha. Yes.
Like, Mazzy Star, Belly, Sinead, all of them.
All that, yep.
And he was a huge fan of Liz Fair, and I was like, oh, well, do you want to go to the show? He's like, oh, well, it's Sunday night,
Oh, come on.
Right. So that was the one I went to by myself. But like you said, I was never a huge fan, but I remember that album. And I remember, like being 17 or whatever.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Thing came out.
Yes.
So I do like when they celebrate it and you hear all of it because, like Brian said, it's easy prep work, and you know everything. But that's also, it puts you literally back in that mindset of when that came out, because I haven't listened to a Liz Fair thing probably since 94, 95 or whatever.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, so I haven't kept up. So it's like it takes you right back, and then you hear some of the newer stuff, and then it ends up on your playlist or whatever. But I thought it was really well done, and I'm really enjoying these 30th or 20th anniversary shows I've decided.
So there's a bunch of others coming up. I don't know if you're like, so Sarah McLachlan's doing one for Fumbling Toward Ecstasy in July, I think, at Michigan Lottery Amphitheater.
Yeah, hold your dogs extra close, though. Hold them extra close.
Yeah, I know. And then I believe that Weezer's doing one for their Blue album. So they're doing one. And so there's a bunch of those, and then Green Day's doing one for Dookie.
We're going to that.
Yeah, okay, that's a pretty because you got Smashing Pumpkins, so you guys got to go to that.
Right. So yes, I'm going with Kennedy and Avery.
Nice.
And,
yeah,
but they're doing Dookie and American Idiot in their entirety.
Oh yeah, because it's
the 30 and the 20. So they're literally
right.
playing 2 full albums. So that's like 20 songs already. I mean, they could only probably fit in like 5 or 6 more. Yeah. So it's like, I know every song.
So easy prep work is what Brian's saying. Yes.
But then I started thinking, I'm obviously a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan. I mean, I'll go to them anytime they're live from here until the day I die, pretty much. But how great would it be if they got on the train, because Siamese Dream just had their 30th anniversary this past July, and they played Siamese Dream in its entirety, and then leading into Green Day. Oh my God. So Neil doesn't have a ticket yet to that one, but I hear
Green Day
and Pumpkins, but I hear in the grapevine maybe Shaq, Pickler, and you might get a thing going, because I'd love to do like a tailgate episode.
There you go.
I mean, I would like to, of course, would love to. I'm just...
And that one, it's more of Green Day for me, 'cause I've
Financially
never
there.
seen them.
We've never
Yeah,
seen
we've
Green
never
Day
seen
either.
them.
That's
Yeah.
one of the few we haven't seen of that era. So
Right.
yeah.
And I remember I was a freshman in college, like right towards the end of the year, and my buddy came, "Oh my God, you got to listen to this," and it was Dookie.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
that's what I-
yep.
Oh yeah, my roommate had it. Yep.
Yeah.
He liked it.
And it's like I was never a huge fan of them, but it was something that was different that was already out. you
Yes,
know, and
yes,
And it helped, I think, kind of change music in that mid-'90s.
yes.
To go, either here or here. Or,
Yeah, they were punkish,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know how you call it, but the same. They had a different sound, if you will.
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
at that
but-
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
They did at that time because if I recall, my brother got Dookie, so we would just finished high school in '94 when that album came out.
right.
Yeah.
So, I graduated in '93.
Yeah.
I was freshman, '93, '94.
Yeah, so-
I mean, the best time ever to, be that age with music.
Oh yeah, it's always fun at that. It's always fun.
Unless
at that
maybe
age.
late 60s, but, 90s were just better anyway, right? We had more shit. Weed was better. Come on, we were in college. Right?
Well, in the '60s, they had the "Don't Eat the Brown Acid."
Right?
Right, there you go.
There you go. You're right. So obviously we haven't even said it yet, but so we met through work.
Yes, yes.
Probably 7 years ago. Say
At least, yeah.
we
So
were part of a big project.
yes, we were part of a project management team. I recall.
Yes. And that was one group, a functional group. You were the other. And we used to have meetings on meetings.
Yes,
and
I
spend
remember
so
that.
much time and stuff. But that was where we found out, because I moved to Howell about 8 years ago, and you're like, oh my God, I grew up in Howell. We found out grew up literally 2 miles from where our studio is. But not only that, we also realized the connection we had through music.
Yes.
And even back then, I'll mention it now. I remember you had the Stratton Setlist, which happened even long before that.
Yes.
So what was that all about?
Yeah, so back in 2015, I started my own music blog, the Stratton Setlist, and I was looking for a way to reflect on all the music that I enjoyed, and so I was trying to figure out, I wasn't sure what to do with it at the time, so I started writing about songs and albums by artists that meant a lot to me, so it was my personal reflections on a lot of Fleetwood Mac songs and Genesis, because they're my two favorite bands, and then I reflect on about a bunch of other releases that came out at that time, singles, albums. The whole point is I was kind of creating a set list of things that kind of reflected my life and what I enjoyed. And then at a previous job, I'd worked for a manager who had suggested, you go to all these concerts, why don't you write a blog? And I'm like, nah, that's one more thing I got to do. And so it just felt like a lot of work, but I wanted to do it, but I was never sure where to go with it. So in 2015, I started at that route. And then by 2017, somebody said, well, what if you try interviewing local artists? And I'm like, yeah, that's not a bad idea, because my whole background's in journalism anyway. So,
good idea,
so
yeah.
I approached a really, Brian and I had gone to a concert in downtown Ann Arbor called Rock the District. This was in 2017.
Okay.
And so there was a local artist named Chris DuPont that I had interviewed, who's a Ipsy singer-songwriter, super talented guy, guitarist, producer, great friend. And so I approached him about interviewing him because he had a live album that had come out at the time. And we had a great conversation, a great interview. I featured him many times since then. And then I just found that I like the local artists because you get to know them as people because they're right there. Their shows, they do a lot of shows. You can go meet them. You can build a relationship with them.
Absolutely.
And that's probably one of the things I liked. And then I just found that there's so many talented people in Southeast Michigan and across all of Michigan in general. So I switched to that. And then I just kept writing, and I would interview one band, and then their friends who were in a different band would see it, and then they contact me. And it just kind of grew from there. And I got a bunch of requests, and then I just started writing it, and then I just started interviewing tons of people. And then by the time the pandemic hit in 2020, I was unemployed at the time, and so I had finished school right before that for grad school, and so I decided, you know what, I think I'm just going to sit and write a bunch of stuff. So I interviewed all kinds of people because there's nothing else to do. Right. So we do Zoom calls and phone calls, and people were still releasing material even though no one could really perform other than live stream. And so it just grew from there. And I still continue to write for it today. It even got me a job at the Ann Arbor District Library where I work now and write for their arts and culture blog Pulp. So it basically got me a job.
That's awesome.
Doing what I've always wanted to do. So yeah.
No, and that's awesome. And actually, that was one of the reasons why I liked having you guys on here today was because of kind of that local scene, right?
Yes.
Because, I mean, to be honest, I did the local scene. but that was like 25 some years ago. You know what I mean? Like you followed bands and like you kind of
yes.
went here. And our buddy Gio had the band Red Eye, and we you're playing Ipsy in Detroit. We're gonna go see you or whatever.
Yep.
And then now at this point in my life, though, I am like, I don't want to call myself like the music snob because. But, the shows I go to are not necessarily going to be the small ones.
Sure.
But it's people like you that keep that going.
Yes.
And that's why I definitely appreciate that. Because, one, I've been there, and two, everyone kind of keeps that torch going because Michigan in general, but really like the Detroit area, there was so much good music, and there always has been.
Yes.
I mean, go back to the 50s, 60s. I mean, you had Motown.
Right.
You had, Grand Funk out of Flint. You know, you had... I mean, even, nowadays, when you think about Eminem and, Kid Rock and people that love them or hate them or whatever, but they were these huge people coming out of here. Bob Seger. Detroit's, I mean, you don't make a song Detroit Rock City, right, without meaning something. And that's the one thing that I'm actually super thankful that I grew up in this area because the shows always come through Detroit. They may come on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which sucks. But they always come through Detroit and why do they come through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Because they know they're going to get that no matter what they got.
Oh yeah.
It's always hardcore here, and I think one of the bands, local bands that we actually connected with early on, Black Note Graffiti, somehow ended up through you, basically. I think it was like David Morales, who is
I know who he is. Yes.
Yeah, and. It was funny because we did our very first episode, me and Neil, we're super excited, and then, we did our first guest, my brother-in-law, and, it was a Saturday, and I remember we tied one on pretty good because it was day one, first guest, and I wake up the next morning completely hungover.
Hasn't changed.
And I'm looking at my email, and I look over at my wife, and I say,
I'm a bit wasted. Go ahead.
I just got an email from some guy that represents a band that says they want to be on our podcast. I'm like, after one episode, nice. I go, this is easy.
That's fantastic.
This is easy. Look how easy this is. Right, yeah, But no, and so we ended up having them on the show. But it was funny because, like, they were relatively, like, new, smaller band, but they ended up having a pretty good summer, like, with...
They did some nice shows.
They did the Upheaval Festival in Grand Rapids, and then they did... there
was like a Burn Fest in Ann Arbor they did.
Ann Arbor at the Blind Pig, which is such an iconic venue, right? Yep. I mean, that goes, way back before even us.
Oh, long time.
Pearl Jam, Nirvana, they all played there.
Yeah, everybody, a lot of people played over the years, yes.
So that was cool to kind of see their trajectory, and, they're in the, doing new music and stuff, so...
And they're a great band. They play with a lot of other really great bands out of Ann Arbor, Detroit. I have not had a chance to interview them yet, but I would love to. I know they were working on new material last I heard. So.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, so.
And, great Gabby or whatever, the great female lead singer. I will say we did have the pleasure of interviewing them, but we weren't very good at our jobs then. So it was episode 5, first Zoom. We only had.
I still enjoyed
we had 5 people on the episode, but somehow only 3 show up on camera.
We did enjoy the interview though because we had listened to that one too. So,
No, but it was fun, and that's like. That's the beauty of it. We have the friends, we have the family, we have other connections, but then, we've had the luxury of getting them on, and we actually had the lead singer of the band Agents of Good Roots.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which I love them, like, back in the 90s.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, one huge album. They did, like, a Planet Fest at Pine Knob, I saw.
Very cool.
And it's so funny because, like you said, you just have to keep pushing. You have to, like...
Yes.
And I'd never heard from them for like 20 years, and I saw they had a video live in concert, like last August. So I looked it up, so I searched it. They got a new website. And then they have the contact us thing, so I put it.
Yep.
So I'm sitting at work the next day, and I get this phone call, like, from Virginia. I'm not answering that, And I answer the voicemail. It's the lead singer of this band.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's like, hey, I saw that you...
Oh, that's really nice.
So we had him on, which was super cool. So, I mean, we're open to having anyone on, whoever it is, and... I mean, that's just the whole point of it.
Yes.
You know, whether it's the bands, the fans of bands, or whatever,
Yep.
but we all connect through it somehow.
It's all that sense of community, and honestly, the more you keep putting things out there, the more people will find you. That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
found.
Yeah.
Like with all the articles I wrote a bunch, and like people
Right.
found it, and then you never know who sees it
Right.
or who listens to it in
Absolutely.
your case and wants to be part of it.
Absolutely.
So keep doing it and keep putting it out because it does matter, and people
Yeah.
want to listen, and they do care and they do appreciate
And you know
it.
what? No matter what, me and Neil have fun doing it.
Right,
A
rock
bunch
on.
of
Yeah.
people we're friends with have fun watching it or
Yes.
whatever, you know, and it reconnects people. And the beauty of it
Does.
is through music.
You know, and these days we need more connection, in my opinion.
100%.
So like
Absolutely.
anything we can do to
We
build
see
that
it all the
connection.
time. You can be at a show with 25,000 people, right? And you're not aligned with them in any which way or form in any of your values.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because you're all there seeing the same show and
You all
having a
have
great
the
time.
same
You have
interest.
something in common. You
Yeah,
know?
You will,
Yes.
right? You will be like, "Hey, can I get your contact info?" And that would be like the person you would never want to talk to. And it just happens because you're at a show. You're like, "Awesome." So,
Yep.
I want to what is it with you guys with music? How did it start? Where did it go? Like, even I want to know. I want to know the story of you two. How I can tell you guys go to shows together.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you love
Oh,
doing
yeah.
together.
Oh, yeah.
So
all the time.
yeah. So
I'll
what's
let you
Okay,
start.
yeah. Well, so I can say, so Brian and I, we met our senior year of high school. So
Okay.
we both graduated from Howell. And so we had a lot of the same classes, but we were always in the wrong sections to be together until we were seniors.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we never had classes together until senior year.
And I had known of Brian, but I had never officially met him. We had a lot of friends in common. And so, anyway, it started with, so we got together like the last couple months of our senior year. And then one of the first concerts we ever went to was Rush for the Counterparts tour
Oh,
in
nice.
'94 at the Palace.
I invited her like early on to Rush, so that's
So,
Nice.
so one
And
thing-
that says a lot because like a girl goes to Rush with a dude. That says a lot.
well,
Cheaper from day one.
so the funny part is when he and I had our first phone call after school. So he asked me on a date, and then we talked on the phone to kind of break the ice. And then I knew he liked Rush, so I specifically brought up and said, "Hey, you like Rush, don't you?" He went, "Oh," because I had really fallen in love with Rush's
my
music
gosh.
when Roll the Bones came out.
Okay.
That's
So,
amazing.
so that was the album that really got me into it. I had gotten my driver's license, and I was looking for stuff to listen to in the car, and I had heard "Ghost of a Chance." If you remember, the Ann Arbor station I think it was WIQB 102.9. It was a great
Okay.
radio station. They used to play a lot of like
I do,
newer
yep.
and like cutting edge type stuff. I think they're country now. They've switched formats, but they would play that song, and I'd hear it on the radio, and I really liked it. So I bought I was still buying tapes back then, so it was a cassette of Roll the Bones.
Absolutely.
And then I just fell in love with it, and then I knew
So
he
you
liked
actually,
Rush.
just like me, you went through the album, tape, CD.
Oh
thing.
yeah,
You had to get
oh,
them
yeah.
all.
I
And
got
then
them
you had
all.
nothing-
Yeah.
You literally had like all three formats of the same album.
Correct.
At some point.
I still do that now
Yep,
too.
she still does that. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I love Spotify because I put every single song on the same playlist, and then I get.
Oh, it's so convenient. It's definitely convenient, and
just do shuffle.
and honestly, a lot of people don't release physical format for music anymore. So
It
it's,
was just
it's
kind of crazy.
So it's a lot of ways of the people I interview, they only have it available on streaming platforms. So
Right.
yeah, but back to your question about like how we met. So then we went to Rush, and then we really enjoyed live music. Later that same year, we saw Stevie Nicks on the Street Angel tour at Pine,
Nice.
at Pine Knob that year.
Right.
It was right, and then we both went off to separate colleges,
Okay.
and then we stayed.
Where'd you guys go?
So I went to Michigan State,
Yep, I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, which is
another Catholic school.
not too far from like Pittsburgh. It's in Ohio,
okay.
but it's
Yeah.
like it's close to.
I was
Pittsburgh.
gonna say I thought Steubenville was Ohio,
Yep.
but
Yep,
right on
yep.
the border of
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, or whatever. Okay.
Because we had already been accepted to our college.
Yeah, by that time.
I got you. Okay.
So we did a long distance relationship all through college.
Wow.
We stayed together. I made many trips down to Steubenville.
That is that is crazy when you think back
Yeah.
in that time. Like I gotta imagine
that's
like a long distance
totally amazing.
relationship would be easier now, right? You have social media.
yeah.
Like back then, you literally had the
With
phone.
email.
We had email on the phone.
All right,
Yeah, we had
email was
yeah.
even new at the time, right? Yeah, for sure. Wow.
But yeah, we did that all. And so back at that time, we didn't really get to a lot of concerts. But then
Yeah.
when we got married in '99, we kind of didn't do a whole lot of music then. And then I'd gone to grad school. Well, I've been twice. So the first round of grad school, it was after I got out of grad
Twice.
school, and we bought our house in Whitmore Lake in 2008. That by 2009 we had. So let me back up. 2008, my brother said, "Let's go to Bonnaroo," and I'm like, I had heard about
Nice.
Bonnaroo, And so
I always wanted to go,
and so-
it was like, I outgrew it, and now it's like a young man's game. I could never do Bonnaroo. I know
It is
that.
like a marathon.
It is a marathon. So I said, yeah, we can go. I had no idea. The only other music festival that I had ever been to was Lollapalooza in '93 at the Milan Dragway.
Right, when it was a traveling tour, so
Oh.
we still went and left the same day.
Right, but it was hot and dusty.
Milan was the worst one ever.
Oh, it was terrible. It was a
Oh,
terrible
my God.
location for a show. Great lineup, but not a good. And then
It was
later,
great for Pine Knob, like the
Yes.
music part, but it wasn't good for a festival.
No,
You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
Hot
so
and dusty.
I remember being hot and being
Milan
like,
was the worst.
I remember being hot and like
Everyone
just.
talks about
Oh,
it. Yep.
yeah.
It was literally like 100
Unreal.
degrees.
Yes, it was.
100% humidity.
It was terrible.
There was no shade because it was a dragway. Like you're in the middle of like desolate. And then it was such a great lineup though.
It was.
And I saw Tool on the second stage. 'Cause
Okay,
at
nice,
that part of
nice.
Lollapalooza, they were still doing the second stage.
Yeah, right.
And I want to say, I think Rage Against the Machine might have been playing main stage, if I remember right. But Tool was on the second stage, and I'm like, I want to see Tool. And there was like 100, 150 people. And
There was
they're on the
nobody.
second
See, I don't think
stage.
I watched that set at that time. I was watching the main stage mostly
Right.
at that time.
And
I
then,
wasn't
but-
at that one. so-
Yeah.
Plus, they also had, it was Dinosaur Jr.,
Yep, Alice in Chains. See, that's what I
Primus.
See, that's what I watched. Yeah.
But remember, Dinosaur Jr. was up there, and they maybe got like 3 songs in, and all of a sudden the sky opened up, and
Oh
the
yeah, 'cause
storm
that's-
came
Yes, the usual dilemma at festivals. Yeah.
in, and just completely halted everything. But then the people had like no safety. I mean, there was like this huge like,
Right.
summer
There's no
storm.
tents or anything. No, they did not plan for safety at the
But
festival.
I will say that luckily it passed through pretty quick, and they rushed everyone, off back on stage. But Alice in Chains came right on after the storm,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was Lane Staley. It was the only time I'd ever
That's
seen
the only
him.
time that I saw him too.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. Like when you actually like on Facebook and all these groups and all the '90s stuff, like Lane Staley. I mean, you would think he was like the second coming. Like,
Yes.
the way people treat him, which he was great. He was, but
He
Yeah. he also had Jerry Cantrell. Let's be honest. I mean, who played the sweet guitar and
Yes,
did a lot of the
yes.
singing. So, like, if you see him now, because I saw him Alice in Chains open up for Guns N' Roses.
Oh
in
yeah,
16,
okay, nice.
And they had Will Duvall singing. And, like, me and my brother were just kind of tooling around Ford Field while they were opening, but listening to him, like, wow, that sounds great. But Jerry Cantrell used to sing, like, 50% of it.
Right,
The
right,
harmonies,
right.
sang a lot of the songs, so it's like, a lot of it sounds the same because of that, not because someone trying to sound like someone else. But the Lane Staley part, and then Primus came on after, which, I mean, love him or hate him,
Yep.
right? For me, I'm a Primus fan, but I'm not like a Primus, like, absolutely love him, right? I just love that he can make those sounds out of an instrument.
There's nothing better than Les Claypool's bass. Yeah, I know. Because when we saw
my
Rush
gosh.
in '94, I'll
Yeah,
go back
they
to that.
opened.
They
really?
opened.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, Primus opened. So I saw them twice
okay.
around that time, and we've seen them. They've been at Bonnaroo. Les
Right.
Claypool's been
Well,
in various projects. And
If
all
there's
that. Yeah.
not some project that doesn't include Les Claypool, then it's not a project. I mean, he's in like every one of
He
them.
does well. Yeah. No, he's a great musician, but just I remember we would go to Bonnaroos of years past. And we'd hear, wah, wah, wah. Okay,
They
well, we
wouldn't
know
be
where
anywhere
Les
near that
Claypool.
stage, but you can hear that
Yeah.
bass across
Across
the
you.
field.
You can hear that all
That's
over
probably
The way he
there.
like dances around and stuff, it's just such a fun time.
Good. No, he has a good time.
Let me hear your real thoughts about that, Brian.
I don't mind it. I'm not a fan,
Well,
but
that was-
it's interesting.
Well, one show, it's so funny. Like you talk about social media, and I put like this post out about Oysterhead, which is
See, I don't know. That's what I'm not as familiar with.
Les Claypool.
And I looked it
and then
up.
Trey
I looked it
Anastasio,
up,
and then
yeah.
Stuart Copeland is on drums.
That's a crazy that's a crazy supergroup
It was
right there.
2001. They had like
is.
one album,
Yeah.
and then they did a tour. And I'm like, and thing is, I was never like a super Fish head. I've seen Fish
Yeah, we've
once,
seen
and I went by
Fish.
myself.
We've seen Fish, yeah.
Just for the experience.
And
I mean,
Trey.
they're great
Yeah, they are
musicians.
great musicians, yes.
100%. It may not be everyone's gig.
Sure.
And then you have Les Claypool, and I'm like, Primus is the same thing. It's not everyone's gig,
Sure.
but I mean, you have to appreciate
they're
what he
talented
does.
guys. They
and
are.
then you have
They're
Stuart
prolific.
Copeland, and you're like, okay, the real musician
Yeah,
out of the
yeah.
group. You know, like the adult in the room. But he kills it. So, like, I love that album. And I remember when,
Oyster.
like, Neil, we got to go to this show. And it was like in Ann Arbor. And it did. It blew me away. Like seeing
I'm
all
sorry.
those guys
I would
together.
have now had that happened 10 years later. We would have been at that.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, that was in like
Well-
we weren't following stuff as much at that time. But that
So
must have been cool.
what I found out is
Actually, it
apparently,
was cool. It was
Yeah.
actually a very fun show.
and it was because you had like all three of them were like such like alphas.
Yes, I can
it was,
imagine,
like,
yes,
one of
yes.
them kind of gets too far out, and it's like they try to pull him back.
Rein him
in,
back in. No,
and,
it's
like-
my turn.
Right, exactly. Exactly, and that was cool, and some of that whole super group thing. And,
Oh yeah, there's been some great
but they
ones.
did play. You know what? They did Bonnaroo. I think they
might have done the early-
late 2000s.
Yeah, they made it. Yep.
But then they did something like the Peach Fest, which I'm assuming might be in Atlanta or something.
I'm assuming
like,
so.
Like
I'm not-
last year.
Yeah, okay.
So like they'll still do some things.
Oh,
together.
that's cool. I didn't know. So now I know who that is when I see the name because I didn't know, and I'm like somehow I totally missed that one, but that would have been cool to see.
What I read was like it sounds like Les Claypool and like Copeland are totally on board to keep doing stuff, and then
Maybe not Trey.
Right.
Yeah, he does a lot. Well, Fish still does a lot now.
then someone was
Anyway.
like,
yeah.
Imagine if they got Billy Strings to do,
Oh, we saw him last summer. Yeah.
Ed Pine Knob.
Yeah.
So yeah, Neil's sister was
Oh, unreal.
He's extremely
I
talented.
didn't see
Yeah.
my sister did. Unreal.
Yeah, that guy. I mean, amazing bluegrass performer. Just
Are
a
you
super
kidding me?
talented guy.
I
Yeah.
can't even believe.
when he's a Michigan guy. So
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
that
Yeah.
show was like
and I think
packed.
like last summer, he still hadn't really blown up yet. I would say. I mean, within the kind of the community, I'll say it was huge. They hadn't blown up, and then like he goes to Pine Knob, and like
Oh,
20,000 people
had a
like
great time.
sold out,
Yep.
kind of like the homecoming. And it seems
Yep,
like
yep.
since that point, like he is
Unreal.
real.
He's done
From what I
great.
see, like online and everything,
He's done
really-
fantastic,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
that's so
no.
awesome. I love hearing. I mean, the other one I'm a huge fan of is Greta Van Fleet.
Oh yeah, we saw
yeah.
we saw them when they came in September. Did you
Oh,
go to the show? Little
Oh,
Caesar?
yeah.
Yeah,
The
that was a
Little
great
Caesar.
show. We loved that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
people are like, "Oh, they're
I-
you know what? You know what
we
they
like
are?
that.
They're four young dudes that are a rock band
Yes.
that actually
Yeah.
kick ass Go
And
see them
are
live.
awesome.
Yes,
Right.
they're very cool guys.
Because I've seen them 3 times now. I saw them at the Fox in like 2018.
We went to that
Oh,
show.
we were
there. Did you really?
Yeah,
Oh.
because they did several nights, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
went one
They-
of the nights they played.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
they
a
did
great
like 3 or 4.
That was a great show too.
That was
yeah.
a great
Yeah, that
show.
was good.
And then actually me and my wife, 2 youngest, and then one of their friends went to Grand Rapids at Delta Place.
Oh, we tried to go to that tour, but then they got canceled.
Yes, because they
got
were doing
ill.
5,
Yeah.
and they had like the Ipsy,
Yeah,
Flint.
we were
and they
supposed to go to
did-
the Flint show.
They never did Detroit, but they did Ipsy,
Right,
Flint,
right.
Grand
Saginaw, I
Rapids,
think.
Saginaw,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was cool that they were kind of hitting all these other places. But it was like a field house, so it meant almost like a high school gym,
wow.
you know. They really do put on a great show.
Oh, they do,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
and
so
it is. It's like takes you back to 70s rock.
it does, and it's nice to see people pay homage to that, and the fact that they appreciate that,
Right.
and yeah, people do give them a lot of flack for what they do, but I think it's nice that they kind of keep the classic rock approach going, but like with the younger generation.
100%.
Which I mean, you want all the established greats to do it, but it's nice to see a younger band also kind of take that and kind of do their own version of it.
They get chastised for that.
They do, yeah.
But they shouldn't.
Nah, they're good,
it's
and
funny.
there's room for everything, right?
Right.
100%.
You're right, right.
And that's the thing is, okay, you don't like it, you don't have to piss all over
yeah,
it.
right.
Like, I hate to say it, but like,
I agree.
there's plenty of music I don't like that I don't sit here and just bash it. I just talk about the shit I like. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, why did it have to turn into like, oh, that band sucks? No, I don't like them, but that's cool. I'm glad you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I've never been a country person ever. Literally. I mean, which is fine. It just never resonated with me. And like, my brother was always my go-to. Like, we're going to concerts, and it was always alternative. And
Yes,
stuff like
yes.
that.
That's a typical older brother.
Right, no, absolutely. And like 7 years ago, all of a sudden, he starts getting into country and going to shows, and which is fine.
Yeah.
And but I'm going to Kane Brown, which is
Oh yeah,
kinda my
he's supposed to
first-
be good. I've never seen
Yeah,
him, but he's
so-
supposed to be good. Yeah.
So we got my daughter and son-in-law tickets. So me and my wife
Nice.
are going with them to
Nice.
LCA to see my first country show.
Oh, cool.
And my brother actually just got tickets to see Hardy at Ruoff
Okay.
in Noblesville, Indiana. Him and his daughter.
Oh yeah, we've been to. speaking of Iron Maiden, we were talking about, that's where we last saw them.
that's right.
Oh, you saw Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
So what is that venue like?
It's like Pine Knob.
It's like Pine Knob.
But
Is
like,
it-
not quite as nice.
But not, but
So that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So Pine Knob is better.
Pine Knob, yeah, but
Okay.
it's an outdoor amphitheater
Yeah,
just
it's
like
nice.
that.
That's
yeah.
what I've seen. It's the pictures. It kind of looks like Pine Knob.
Yes,
I just
It
it
wanted
doesn't
does.
have like all the landscaping and
Right.
Okay,
It's
okay.
it's pretty.
Pine Knob
It's
is.
Indiana.
Well, 'cause so last year, me
It's
and
flat, you know. It's Indiana. Yeah.
I get
That'll
that.
answer the question. It's in Indiana.
Well, because me, Neil, and then Ken and Avery went to Smashing Pumpkins September 6th, and then September 8th was Greta Van
Red Fleet,
Fleet.
yeah, because we went to that
And then
one. Yep.
September 10th, me and my brother-in-law were going to Ruoff to
Oh
see Pearl
yeah.
Jam.
Okay.
We're on the drive. We literally just started out. We're 30 minutes in. All of a sudden, it's postponed.
Oh no.
'Cause I
That's how it
didn't-
always works when you go out of town
Right.
for a show. That's the one that gets.
So I'm like, oh my
Gets
god! But
canceled
then
or
I'm like,
moved.
thank God I checked because
Yes.
Don't go out of town for a show.
But so they did just announce their new tour. They have a new album coming.
Yeah,
out.
I saw
So
that,
It sounds
yeah.
like Ruoff is going to be August 26th. So it went from a Sunday, I think, to a Monday.
Okay.
Which, whatever. So fingers crossed.
Yeah,
We're
good,
actually
good.
So that'll be the first time in like 22 years I've seen them. I think.
So-
I think 2022 might have been the last time I saw Pearl Jam at Pine Knob.
It's been longer for us. We saw them. They came to Joe Louis Arena, I think, in
Yeah.
2014.
Yes,
And we
okay.
went to that show, and that show was
packed.
packed. Holy cow!
I remember when they were coming.
Talk
to
about a
Joe
crowd
Louis.
into a show. Talk about a crowd into a show.
yeah,
right.
Oh my
Totally
gosh,
into it,
yeah.
yeah.
So what do you guys
So-
take on Pearl Jam? Because I mean, a lot of
I've
people are
always
like,
liked
oh, they're
Pearl-
grunge, they're not grunge, they're dad rock.
I've always liked Pearl Jam.
have I.
Yes, for me,
always been a fan.
it started with 10. You know,
No,
so
obviously.
10, and then of course it was
So I was always,
Versus-
I was a bigger fan of Versus than I was
okay,
10.
yeah.
But they're so close, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And Vitology was another one that we liked.
When
Yeah,
when that
yeah.
one came out, and then it was like it kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah.
And we talked about this with the last guest, Deho. Like, you know, people always want their favorite bands to like do something different and
Yes,
exciting.
yes.
And then they do something different and exciting, and they're like, man, I wish they would just play what they
And then
normally play.
not everybody's
they
always
never
happy.
actually invest the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And it's so hard nowadays to, well, not hard, but people don't invest the time. Because before you had to buy the new CD. And you had to listen to all 10 or 12 songs
Right.
over and over, and you're like, wow, I love 8 of these. And really, maybe only 4 of them were good, but for some reason, the other 4 resonated with you.
Yep.
Now it's like, oh, I can just download 4 songs and I'm done. Or it's like, I'm not going to listen to the new one because I love all the old stuff. And it's
Right.
like, people don't even give music a chance, which is, it kind of doubles back to the local music scene
Yeah.
and what you talk about. And there was one thing, you had something going on a while ago, a speakeasy
Oh,
at the,
yeah,
at the
yeah.
Ark or whatever. I don't, what was that
Yeah,
about?
so Save the Speakeasy is basically like a grassroots effort of local musicians who've come together to help a great friend named Johnny Williams.
Okay.
So Johnny ran Johnny's Speakeasy out of his basement, and he had a lot of local musicians and even touring acts perform there for years. And then I think he paused during the pandemic for a bit, but then his house caught fire in 2022. And so he's been running into some issues with getting reimbursed from an insurance company a reasonable amount to pay so that he could rebuild. And so since the insurance company is kind of not meeting him on some of that, the musicians decided to step up and try to do some shows to raise money to
Nice.
help him get the extra money that he needs to
That's
rebuild.
awesome.
And so far, last I knew they had raised over $30,000.
Wow.
And so the Ark Show was one. They're doing another one on February 17th in Manchester at River Raisin Distillery, which is put on by
Yep.
a great organization called Manchester Underground.
Nice.
And so they're having several bands come through and perform as part of that, but all ticket proceeds go to help Johnny Williams.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so they're doing some other shows in April and in June as well. So it's a benefit.
And just, seeing the people take care of someone who's kind of taking care of
He's
them.
been a great
Right?
supporter of the music scene by hosting so many people. I've never had a chance to get to a speakeasy before the pandemic, but once he's able to get the funds and rebuild, we definitely want to come see his show. But he's a great guy and support a lot of the local musicians. So
No,
Yeah, and
that's
there's
awesome.
this like whole scene of these like house concerts that I never even knew about until like 5-6 years ago.
Okay,
And
I was kind of intrigued by this.
Yeah.
So this was like his
They're kind
house,
of,
and he would have
little
shows there.
venues that people do in their houses or
Their
their
basements,
barns,
yeah. That's
whatever,
awesome.
and they host concerts, small local size.
Well, it's funny like you
like a
bring
whole
that up,
other
but then it's
world.
like you'll see the old footage of like Nirvana, and they're playing like in someone's living room.
Yeah, well-
like,
we've been to those
it's
too.
kinda like those, right?
Yes.
They're just,
So that's kind of like the DIY scene. We've been
Yeah.
to those, and those are great. We're like,
But then this is a little more.
But this is like
put
so
together. Like
those
it's an
might
actual
be,
venue.
Yes,
almost.
yeah. Those might.
Okay.
So like we've been to ones that are DIY in people's basements in Ipsy and Detroit, and those are great because they might be in college or just out of college in their 20s, and they're hosting all kinds of genres. And then we've been to one where people are older and they do it in their house in their basement, and it's like there's another great one called Black Crystal Cafe in Ann Arbor that GW Stanton runs out of his basement. You go down, it looks like. It is fabulous, beautifully decorated. He gets
kind of like our studio.
I mean, it's just, you have to see it to believe it. It is fantastic. Black Crystal Cafe. Yeah,
Cafe.
He has an email list you can sign up for, and he gets a lot of local artists.
Crystal Cafe.
But he gets a lot of local artists, but he also gets ones that travel in from Nashville and other places. He gets all kinds of, and it's like 30 people. They give you like appetizers, they have drinks, they have a bar down there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It is a beautiful facility, and GW's are great, and he and his wife Claudia are great people anyway. So
it's just like kind of a night out, just go check out some good music.
It's I mean, they're just such great people, and they're just such big supporters. There's a lot of great supporters that do the house concert scene, and not just like the smaller venues too. You know, so.
Bam. Lori. Bam. This fucking girl is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
and I did not pay him to say that either.
And you did not pay me to say that.
It's more like he has to pay me.
We're still operating at a loss around here.
That's too much, man.
No, so
for me,
the other thing is you're also connected with the library, which you guys put on some like shows.
Yeah, we do shows too. Yeah,
right?
so they used to do more events in person before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, they did more virtual things. And now they've moved back to that since I started there about a year and a half ago. So I've hosted one concert so far. Carolyn Strio, who's a Detroit rock singer-songwriter, fabulous person. She performed back in June.
Okay.
And then I'm having another great singer-songwriter named Mike Ward, who's performing April 28th at the library. Okay. And so he's a folk singer-songwriter, fantastic person, and just a great artist. And then next Saturday, we have a reggae ska band from Detroit called Killer Diller performing.
Nice.
And that's what we call an after-hours show. So the library closes at 8 pretty much every day, but next Saturday we reopen at 9 and have the band play for an hour and people can come. And the nice thing about library shows is that it's open to anybody. Anybody can come. You don't have to buy tickets. You don't have to RSVP. You can just drop in and see the show. And
nice.
And we do it in the lobby where we have a lot of room. So it's great. I'm in the process of getting some more artists booked for shows coming out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So just to get a chance to like showcase a lot of people from Southeast Michigan. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
That's too rad.
No, and that's where it goes back to. It's good to see people driving kind of that local music scene. You know?
Yes.
Because that's where it all starts.
Yes.
Those people start so like literally in someone's basement.
Oh, absolutely.
And end up in like Ford Field somewhere down the road.
You never know. I mean, that's why the musicians work so hard to like write and record and perform, and it can be pretty grueling with all that. And it's not easy to get shows booked or to get the time to do it if you have a separate day job and a family. Right. So they balance a lot. They work really hard. And when people can continue to work hard and they're able to hit whatever goals they want to hit, and if that means playing Ford Field one day, then I say you go for it. You know, whatever that is.
But you know what? They put in that same effort though when they're playing the 50 people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's where it kind of separates like the good from the not. You know, the ones that are 100% committed. They don't care if there's 5 people or 500,000 people. They're going to put on the same show.
Yes, and most people appreciate true fans, even whether it's a bunch or a few.
Absolutely.
They just want most people that I talk to just want to be able to chance to put the music out, get people to hear it, and to build a sense of either to connect with other musicians or other people in the scene, but to also build a sense of community with fans. And they really just want to connect with people. That is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. And it's like
I love that.
You're 50 people come to my show, tell 5 friends.
Exactly.
And then they tell 5 friends, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it don't.
Right.
But no matter what, you can't take that away from them.
Right.
So what are some? I know I always keep an eye on your social media. And you guys went to Stevie Nicks, right? So
yes, we did back in November.
Like? How was that?
Well, so that was
because that was one in my family was like a contentious debate.
Okay, interesting. You'll have to tell me about that.
So my daughter Kennedy loves Stevie Nicks. My wife likes Stevie Nicks. My son's like, all right, I'll go. And
sure.
I'm like, I'm not the biggest fan. I know she'll play a bunch of songs I know.
Yes, she will.
But do we want to spend $1,000 as a family to go see her?
Well, yeah.
You know, because at that point...
It is a lot of money.
At that point, you're like an aftermarket. And you know what? This day and age, I want to actually have a good spot to see this.
Yes, we know that.
Years ago, like, all right, if I'm just in the building, I'm happy.
Yes.
But if I'm going to go Stevie Nicks, I want to actually have a good seat. So, like, at that point, I'm like, I don't know. And we just kind of him and hawed, and then it just came and went, and I kept quiet.
So
what was it like?
So you're talking to the one person that Stevie Nicks was my hero growing up. So Fleetwood Mac was my absolute favorite band as a kid,
right?
And I absolutely attribute to them why I'm in music journalism and why I want to do all this in the first place.
Nice.
So my parents played Rumors when I was really young and barely out of the womb. And then I didn't really, and then around age 10, Tango in the Night came out, and that album just did it for me. I heard Big Love by Lindsey Buckingham, and I was hooked. My brother had bought the tape, and he was kind of not so into it. I took it, I ran with it. So after that, this is the summer of 87, before I went into 6th grade, I went back and bought the entire catalog over the next year or so. And we joked earlier about the tape. Eventually, I got the CD, I got the record, and did all that.
Yeah, but you got the really blues stuff too.
I did. I went all the way back in the catalog. So my mom would take me. My mom was a big music fan, so she would take me to we would go to a lot of record shows back in the late '80s. So we go to all over Metro Detroit, and I would go through crates of records, and I would find some, and my mom would get me some if I couldn't go with her. And then she used to get Gold Mine magazine, where it was kind of like the eBay equivalent of music. Right. So they still print it, but it was a huge catalog that came. My mom would go through and find Fleetwood Mac albums, and she'd get them for me, and she'd bid on them by mail and all this stuff. So I had a huge collection of all that by the time I was 13, 14. And so I went to pretty much every Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac tour after that. And so I would say spend the money on Stevie Nicks, but I'm extremely biased. And anybody that knows me well enough knows how much I've loved Fleetwood Mac over the years.
So your mom and dad, but your mom and dad were influential.
Yes, and my brother too with music in different ways. Yeah. They all were. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So none of us really were musicians per se, but we always appreciated music.
Right.
And so.
Yeah.
So Brian, what did you think about?
Oh, I think she's very, Fleetwood Mac. That's classic. I mean,
it was awesome.
Yeah, it's
good.
She always puts on a good show. I mean, she's got that level now.
Well, that's the thing is I mean, I don't have a problem spending $250 for a ticket.
But see,
as long as it's worth it.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it's a good show, I mean, you can't do much for $200 nowadays. Where you go out and just have a blast and great time.
Right.
So.
But it's also we're paying for 2 versus 4, so it does add up. That makes a difference. I get it.
That's the beauty, because now the kids are older, and you can be like, all right, you're not going.
Right.
My wife doesn't want to go, so they're like, oh, good, you are going.
Yeah.
Or now I've just said, screw it, and I'm just going by myself.
Well, we've done that too, where we've just gone on our own to shows because maybe one of us can't go or they're gone.
I've never been against it, but I mean, I went to Tool by myself.
I did that too. I did Tool by myself.
Oh,
yeah, a couple years ago.
Oh, I went in. It was my freshman year at college.
Oh no, you're more legit than me. This was 2019.
This was State Theater, and actually, our one of our guests, Echon, I forget what episode he was, but he gave me a ticket for my birthday, my freshman year of college. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm like, when is it? When are we going? He's like, I just got you a ticket.
Nice.
I'm like, so you got me a ticket, but you didn't get one, so you're not. I'm going by myself.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. It took me 30 years to realize that was his actual ticket that he gave me for my birthday.
That's nice. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to the show, and Tool, it's filming.
Yeah, that's a great place to see him. Yeah.
I love that place. Yeah.
And I was meeting a guy I played soccer with. He was a lot older, but I'm like, somehow we connected, on a landline that he was going to the show. I'm like, all right, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you outside at 8 o'clock, and he never showed. So I went in, and I'm like, fuck it. So I'm front row center at
nice.
Tool. I look over, and here's the guy I'm supposed to meet 2 feet away. Oh. I'm like, what the hell happened? He had a flat tire on the way.
Oh, no
So by the time we got, but again, back then,
this
he
is
had
before the days of cell phones
right,
and texting.
You couldn't call, you couldn't text or nothing.
You were kind of stuck, yeah.
Then, fast forward, 10 years, I went to Ben Harper by myself.
Okay.
Which I met my buddy, but I had my own seat, so I was by myself, which was awesome. And then 2 days later, because I was still in Cincinnati area, I went to Fish. So that was the only time I went to Fish was by myself. And then Liz Fair. Because I've got to the point where if I want to go to a show, I'm like, because we talk about it, Neil. You can't wait for the next time they're coming.
Because you don't know if they're going to come back. We talked about that many times.
Like, Soundgarden's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Like a midweek. I'll tell you all next time. And the guy literally died that night.
Well, we went to that show on my birthday. We went to that show on my birthday.
Oh, you went to the show?
Yeah. It was on my birthday. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we went to that show, and it was... I just remember, like, everybody said they thought he had acted odd during the show. We didn't quite pick up on that. We thought they had actually sounded pretty good.
That's what I heard. I heard more of that he sounded really good more than that.
It was really good.
And I thought, this is great. It was at the Fox, and I saw it was on my birthday. I'm like, Brian, we should go for my birthday. Let's do that. So we bought tickets. I'm glad we did, because Tears for Fears also came to town. I would have loved to have seen them, but in hindsight, I'm glad I picked Soundgarden, because who would have known that was the last show.
That was it.
And then we got home late. I went to bed. I worked up. This is when I was still working with you at that same company before. Mm-hmm. And, like, I woke up, and there were all these things on Facebook saying, we're sorry about Chris Cornell. I'm like, what are you talking about? I just saw him, like, 4 or 5 hours ago. Well, that's when he had taken his life then.
Man.
It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah,
he's a talented guy. Yeah, so...
Yeah, very talented.
Yeah, and I'm grateful we went to the show, but I'm sorry that's what happened to him. You know, I'm sorry I'm sorry he was in a place like that where that
100%.
happened. Yeah.
100%. And so ever since then... Like, that was the one where I'm like, you know what? I can't just say I'll catch him the next time. So, like, when Liz Fair came up, and I kept asking people, hey, you want to go? You want to go? And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going myself.
You just got to go if you want to go. Because
so I went, and you know what? I had a blast. It was a great time. I actually met up with Paul Grosso, you know, episode 1.
Right.
That's actually where we locked it in. I'm like, you know what? You just need to be on the show. You know? And then I just went a couple nights ago to Diggable Planets.
Yep, that's right. That's super cool. I would have liked to have gone to that show.
Yeah, well, the theater was awesome.
It's great venue. We've been there several times.
You know, going in, like, I was a huge fan, right? But never seen them live before.
Right.
And then you also kind of wonder, okay, it's the 30th anniversary. What's it going to be like?
Yeah.
And then they came out, and oh my God, they were amazing. They
That's
sounded
great.
Incredible. Even more so, though, the band behind them.
Cool, nice.
They had, I mean, the bass player just kicked ass. The guy that was on the drums was actually the opening act.
Okay.
You know, and then they had keys and, you know, guitar, everything.
Nice.
So it was just, it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, that was 3.5 hours of driving in, like, the worst weather ever.
We know.
But I'm like, you know what? It was so worth it, and I'm so glad that I did it. And that's why I tell everyone on the, you know, that listens, like, if you want to see something, go see it. Even if it's a drive, even if it could be the last time, or it could be the best time.
All the above.
Absolutely, because I mean, we've all seen some of our favorite bands have a stinker too, right?
I mean, they have good and bad days. We've seen bands on the same tour. Maybe one show they're tired, and then we see them later on the tour and they're much more energetic. So we might have just caught them on a bad day.
Absolutely,
it happens. Yeah.
So another one that you guys seem to be a pretty big fan of is the National.
Yes, we've seen the National.
And I know Neil is too.
Yes.
Big National.
Now, was there a certain National album that did it for you that you liked with them?
Well,
I mean, you seem to be. So I was never a big National guy, but you seem to be more of kind of like ground floor coming in because of Keith, our buddy, was from Cincinnati.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah.
I think he kind of knew about him way ahead of time. And
nice.
Got everyone
That's
else
cool.
interested.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'll let you go, but I remember the one show we talked about.
Our buddy Keith is from Cincy.
Yep.
And National is from Cincy, so he's a good
well, you guys saw him, I forget where, but you actually talked to the lead singer.
Oh, Matt Berninger? Yeah,
Yes.
That guy's super cool, too, yeah.
Yeah, you were hanging outside and happened to run into him, right?
Yeah, he's totally cool. It sounds really weird. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, they ran into him outside, and I think he gave you
Relic music
backstage pass.
I think you too. Did you talk about this in an episode? I heard that. Yeah. We thought that was awesome.
Backstage, actually, Neil didn't end up backstage because he had to pee.
Right.
But our buddy Keith was hanging out with him for like a half an hour.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think we were at that show.
We might have been at that show.
I think we're at.
You guys just saw him in Detroit.
Yes.
In March. Was it March?
So we saw
around then.
So we saw them. So we saw them at the Fillmore, Detroit, in August, and then in September they did their
birthday around then.
So then in September they did their second homecoming festival in Cincinnati, downtown Cincinnati, at a park, like a new park they built. And then we went to the first homecoming festival in 2018 that they had put on. And it was in a bigger park that they hadn't quite developed. They since developed it since then. And then 2020 they were supposed to do it, but they canceled because of the pandemic. So they were able to do it in 2023 finally. So we went back. It's a 2-day festival, and actually we really liked what I call like the band or artist curated festivals the best. It's not a huge crowd. They bring in a lot of other people. It's smaller stages, a smaller crowd. It's not as long of a day, so it's nice because you get, whether it's the National or Wilco's done a festival or the Decemberists or, geez, I'm trying to think. We've been to a bunch of those, like Eau Claire by Bon Iver, and like also part of the National has put on that festival.
So Bon Iver.
Yeah.
So that's someone I'm not very familiar with. I've seen the name.
Justin Vernon's fantastic.
Right. But I've seen the only Taylor Swift song I have on my playlist.
Oh yeah, I love that song.
I love that song. Oh my god,
song.
We're the right demographic.
Yes,
right.
yes.
And then that caught me like, okay, I need to start now kind of listening more to him. You know, like putting some of that on my playlist.
No, he's great.
That's usually what I do. I started my playlist on Spotify. It was like small, and I was like 1,400 songs. I just keep adding.
Yeah,
shit
keep
to
adding.
It, and I just shuffle it, and then you hear what I hear. But I'm like, that's the only Taylor Swift song I have, and it was so funny because I said that on a different episode. My buddy was like, "That is the best song ever."
Dude,
like
that song's great. That song is great. Because, and honestly, her Folklore and Evermore albums that like Aaron Dessner from the National produced are my favorites of her catalog. She is a fantastic songwriter, artist, human, musician, all the above, and I enjoy her entire catalog.
So she did a song with the
National on their album too. Yeah. So like they released 2 albums this year. It's the first of the 2 they released that she did a great duet with them on that one too. And so you'll just find like the National's just a great band, and I enjoy like I think what we enjoy about them is just kind of like their musicianship. They have such like their lyrics are kind of esoteric, which I appreciate. So like they talk about having battles and things eating their brains and all kinds of cool stuff like that.
Carried away by bees.
Carried away by bees. Buzz Blood Ohio, which is a great song. But
he does have like a very, to me, it's almost like an iconic voice.
He has a great voice. Some
people
you
hear it, you almost like it's a National.
Yep.
Right? There's that distinct thing, but it's not like I'll say like a Bob Dylan where it's a bad thing.
It's just different. It's just different.
Like,
he has a unique voice, and some people either love it or they don't.
Yeah, it's usually a love
and people are like, they're like, I don't like his voice, and I'm like, I don't get that. It doesn't. I don't understand why people don't like it.
Too much.
I think some of it's not his voice.
I think some of it. I can't believe they're that good.
No, they're fantastic. They're like one of my favorite bands. I credit my brother with introducing me to them because he loved them first, and then by the time High Violet came out
we got in
2010, I bought that album and I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
such a great album.
That's a great album.
Yeah. So
that's so awesome when you like catch a band like that.
Yeah.
Like, kind of earlier on, like Wilco was the one for me.
Oh, they're great. I love.
Because I used to listen to Uncle Tupelo before Wilco.
Okay.
Right?
See, I've been talking to Uncle Tupelo as much, but I need to do that.
We need
and
to
then that was where, and then Jay Farr actually, he was the one who was like, I want to break out. And he went and made Sunvolt.
Right,
and then
right.
Tweety was like, all right, I'm going to make Wilco and just be better.
They're
that was like
bands.
the one. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love them both. But I remember seeing Wilco, there would be like few hundred people.
Oh yeah, right.
And then all of a sudden they're like Grammy award-winning people. They're doing these awesome shows, and it's just been so long since I've seen them that I will really want to see them again.
So you should check out Jeff Tweedy's latest book, which I read. A world within a song.
Yes, I have it. I got it for Christmas.
Fantastic.
My kids got it for me.
And he brings up a lot of songs that influence him in different ways, and a lot of them are ones I didn't know.
Right.
And I learned a lot. Some are ones I did know, but like I learned a lot, and it's nice because you can always create a playlist. People have created playlists based on those songs.
That's actually super awesome.
So you could listen along as you're reading each chapter, because each chapter has like a different song, and it's not a very long book, so it goes pretty fast.
It's actually pretty small. So I got that for Christmas for my kids. I also got, I think it's the drummer from Screaming Trees.
I think they did release it. I don't have that one, but I'm sure that'd be good. He did,
yes. His perspective, like the biggest band that never was.
Yes.
I mean, they actually were a super awesome band.
They were a good band. My brother was a big fan of them.
They were actually pretty big, but they never
really got beyond.
Yeah.
I know them more from like the single soundtrack. If you know the movie single.
Everybody Lost You was like the number one that everyone knew by then. It was like Dollar Bill.
Yes.
The Sweet Oblivion CD is the one that I had, which was like amazing. But yeah, that's so funny that that we bring that up. So anything else you guys have coming up?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have like sure I could.
How long do we have?
We never.
Yeah, what do you got, girl? What do you have, girl?
So we divide this up into like So like local shows that we go to, and then we've also got like I would say like touring acts. So like for local shows we've got, so one of them I mentioned earlier was the Manchester Underground is hosting a show February 17th, and that's at River Raisin Distillery. And then a few others we have coming out. There's some really great festivals coming up in Detroit. Hamtramck Blowout has been brought back after an absence.
Pollocks. So. Yeah, Hamtramck. I can say that. I'm allowed to.
That's right. Hamtramck's fine.
Hamtramck's a great city.
Hamtramck's
And
I love Hamtramck.
So unique. It's
the home of DCFC too, right?
Yeah.
And so they also have, so Detroit, so they have that coming up. I think it's the first weekend of March. And then there's Corktown Music Festival in Detroit, which is like, I think maybe the third weekend in March. And these are a lot of local acts that perform at a bunch of bars and small venues. So those are fun to go to.
Those are great places to be to.
Yes,
Corktown,
yes.
Detroit.
Yes, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then there's, let's see, a few others coming up. So some of the other ones that we're looking at, so believe it or not, actually in Howell, have you been to the Howell Opera House to see a show yet?
I have not been to one, but I've seen they have
So
shows
speaking
there.
of local, this is super local.
Yeah.
So for a long time growing up in Howell, we had always heard about this opera house, but we had never seen it. And so at one point then, I think they reopened the building or it was kind of covered up, wasn't it?
A hardware store?
It was a hardware store.
They used it as storage or something.
And so finally they opened it up and the Livingston Arts Council started hosting shows there again. So we're actually going there to see a singer-songwriter named Julianne Ankley. She's from Port Huron.
Okay.
And we're taking my dad because it's on his birthday.
Nice.
So I said, Dad, we're going to the Howell Opera House for your birthday. He's like, okay, that sounds great.
He thinks he's going to buy a screwdriver still.
No, he knows. My dad's up on music. So yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
so we're going to that show coming up in Howell, and then
Yeah, they have the Opera House, and I'm thinking like the main floor, they have like the art exhibit.
yes.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of the ones at the Howell Opera House are more acoustic, folk singer, Americana singer-songwriter style.
Yeah,
so that's kind of more what they're going for there. But we're excited. We've never checked that out.
Awesome.
And then for like touring acts, we've got a bunch coming up. So we're going to see. So the one I'm most eager to see that just went on sale is Andre 3000 from Outkast.
With the flute.
Yes.
Yes.
So I saw that and where's it playing?
It's at the Masonic.
Yes,
It's
so
at
I'm
the
like, holy
Masonic.
crap,
Yeah.
Andre 3000 at the Masonic.
So we bought tickets.
And then I'm like, wait, there's two shows in the same day. Wait, he's a flautist.
Yes.
He's a flautist.
Should be interesting. I think.
It should be interesting though,
Jazz
actually.
flute. So
Yes, so that was just kind of came out of nowhere. We're going to that's actually on the 9th, so that's coming up. So that's that's like the first one we have it's actually in the Chapel Theater, which is a really small theater.
Right.
It's even smaller than the Cathedral one.
I was going to say that's the third one that's even smaller.
Yep. And then another group we're going to see at El Club. I don't know if you've had a chance to go to El Club yet in Detroit. It's in Mexican Town. We're going to see a group called Blonde Redhead, so that should be a cool show.
I've heard of the L Club.
Yeah, it's a real venue. We've been there many times,
It's pretty small. It's kind of like, I don't know.
It's kind of like a small St. Andrews.
Okay.
Where it's like one big room that's kind of long. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So
For the Blind Pig or something.
the Blind Pig, yes.
Pig, yeah.
Yep. And then another group we're going to see is Silver Sun Pickups. Have you?
Okay, yeah, definitely.
So if you like Smashing Pumpkins, you have got to listen to Silver Sun Pickups.
Were you seeing?
They are coming to St. Andrews.
You know when?
It's March 3rd.
Silver Sun Pickups.
So as much as you like, if you have not listened to them, as much as you like Smashing
I've
Pumpkins, you have
always
got
seen
to
the
listen.
name.
They have that
You have
one
got to
really
listen to
good
them.
song.
You would like them. They have
And
great
then
songs.
they have 5 others.
They're great. And so actually we're going to that show because it's the 30th anniversary of our first date.
Oh wow!
So we wanted to find something to do to celebrate that. So we're doing that. And then
I love that. Obviously, you guys' history, but there's been a music connection like from day one with Rush of all things. You got yourself a good one, Brian.
I've been waiting. Right, Silver Sun Pickups.
Yeah.
Unreal.
But and then like I said, other shows coming up. So we're actually going to see Judas Priest. Have you been to Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo? We're going to see them there.
So I actually asked that like 2 nights. Is Wing Stadium still a thing?
Apparently
it is. We didn't know that, but then we saw they were coming, and we're like, we're going to that.
The only thing I saw at Wing Stadium was '92. It was Beastie Boys.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
Rollins band opened up, and
and
the Lynch Mob.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
was the rap act that Ice Cube was in.
Okay,
he was not there at that night.
Got it.
But yeah, oh my, that's the only time I've been there.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
wow! It still is a thing. Holy
Yeah, we've
fuck.
never been there. I've always seen it on the 94.
Right.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
place.
absolutely.
And
They
Brian's
do-
a big Judas Priest fan,
Oh, yeah.
so I
That's
thought we
awesome.
should go to that. So that's in May.
That's one of those ones you never know how long
Right.
they're
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
around, right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing we bought was, so just yesterday we bought tickets to like a one-day festival in Pasadena called Just Like Heaven. And so it's kind of like a lot of the, what I call like the aughts and 2010s bands that were big in the indie scene, like Death Cab for Cutie,
Okay.
the Postal
I love
Service,
Death
the
Cab.
the War. So me too.
So
the,
Death Cab for Cutie and Postal Service
together.
same dude,
Yeah,
right?
and we went to
Yep.
their show
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in
we saw
September.
that.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
That
And
That was
so-
one of those ones I wanted
Full
to go
album thing,
to.
yeah.
So they're headlining, and then it's like the War on Drugs and like
Okay.
Passion Pit and like a bunch of
Nice.
people from that era that we liked.
So obviously in Pasadena, California.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
it's at the
big
Rose
famous.
Bowl. yeah. So it's
That's
like
awesome.
So we're going to that, and that's around my birthday. So I said we're gonna go to that for our birthday, for my birthday, I should say. So we're doing. So
Don't twist Brian's
Yeah.
arm. To go to
Like,
California and watch
we have
awesome
to.
music.
yeah. But
Death Cab for Cutie is great.
they're
Yeah,
a fantastic
absolutely.
band. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
a big fan of them, and anything Ben Gibbard or Jenny Lewis does, we've loved for years.
yeah, yep.
So yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Lori, I think you know too much about fucking music, which is not a bad thing.
which is exactly why you're on the show.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean,
Unreal.
from back then, like, that was the one thing we connected on. which
Right.
is, you know,
Absolutely.
and it just is always takes you back there, right?
Yes.
So I would say I'm super happy you guys were with us today. I think you actually had a little different perspective than some of the other guests we
Yeah,
normally
sure.
have, especially like with the local scene and
Yeah,
just your
yeah,
background in
yes.
music and everything else. But thank you for joining us today. And I mean, hopefully we'll have you on again.
That'd be
Hopefully
great.
you guys
Thank you
had
for
fun.
having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is a
thanks
lot
for
of
having
fun.
us.
This is really cool.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Neil.
Brian, thank you for having us.
Have a good one. Peace.
Empire, yeah.
Absolutely.
And